sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
All right, so welcome to another deep dive with us. Today, we're going to be tackling a pretty spicy topic.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of a clash of the titans. We've got Elon Musk going up against Steve Bannon.
Whoa. Yeah.
And the battleground they've chosen. You're not going to believe this.
Yeah.
H-1B visas.
Huh. That is interesting. I mean, we usually see Musk and Trump as being pretty aligned, right?
Yeah, usually. But when you bring Trump's base into the picture, things get a little more complicated.
Especially like the Bannon wing of the base.
Oh.
Those more nationalist views.
Exactly. And this Forbes article we're diving into really captures how strongly Bannon feels about all this.
Yeah, it's not just like a policy disagreement, is it? It feels much more personal.
Definitely personal. I mean, Bannon's out there saying Musk should go back to South Africa.
Wow.
Even threatening to do anything to keep him away from the White House.
And he doesn't stop there. He makes these really sweeping generalizations about South Africans.
Right, like that whole thing about them being the most racist people on Earth.
Yeah. And I mean, that kind of rhetoric is really concerning. Even in politics, where things can get heated, it really echoes these historical tactics of like demonizing entire groups of people.
It's like he's trying to paint Musk as this outsider, even though, I mean, come on, Musk is deeply tied to American industry.
Yeah, and to Trump himself.
Right. So how do we even begin to make sense of this?
Well, I think we need to like take a step back and look at Bannon's background, you know? His role in Trump's world has always been kind of, how do I put this? It's a tightrope walk.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, from being a key strategist in 2016 to their very public falling out and then their reconciliation, it's a pretty volatile history.
So are these attacks on Musk like Bannon's way of signaling to the Marites? Like, hey, look at me. I'm the real deal, not this tech billionaire who's playing both sides.
That's definitely a possibility. And you got to think about the battleground they've chosen, you know, H-1B visas. This stuff really gets people riled up.
It's true. It touches on all those anxieties people have about globalization and the future of work, right? Like, who benefits from the tech industry? Who gets left behind?
Absolutely. And even though our listeners are pretty plugged into the tech world, I think it's worth taking a minute to explain, like, why H-1Bs are such a flashpoint.
Yeah, good point.
So they're not just about, you know, filling jobs. They're a key way for companies, especially in tech, to get access to talent from all over the world.
It's about attracting the best and the brightest, right?
Right. And there are different categories for all sorts of skills and degrees. And there's this constant debate about whether the program needs reform, whether it's like undercutting American workers. It's a really complex issue.
So we're not just talking about programmers, right? It's scientists, engineers, all these really specialized roles that are driving innovation.
Exactly. And this is where the Trump administration's actions get really interesting, because Trump, who is known for his stance on immigration.
Being tough, to put it mildly.
Yeah, exactly. He actually appoints a pro-H-1B advisor. And then you've got Bannon going on this tirade, even threatening to, and I quote, rip Musk's face off.
Wow. Strong words, even for Bannon.
And then, well, Musk being Musk, he doesn't take this lying down.
He hits back with that tweet, which...
Oh, yeah, that tweet. Colorful, very on brand for him. I think everyone knows what we're talking about.
Yeah, let's just say it got people's attention.
So you've got these really deep divisions, not just across the country, but within Trump's own circle. You have Bannon and his faction representing that America First perspective.
Viewing H-1Bs as a threat.
Right. A threat to American jobs and a symbol of, like, runaway globalization.
And on the other side, you've got Musk and other tech leaders arguing that these visas are essential, right? If we want to stay competitive, we want to keep pushing boundaries in AI, biotech, space exploration.
It's not just Silicon Valley that benefits, right? But the argument is that it helps the whole economy.
Exactly. And get this, Musk isn't fighting this battle alone. He actually finds allies in some pretty unexpected places.
Oh, like who?
Well, you've got venture capitalist David Sachs and, wait for it, Vivek Ramaswamy.
No way. The guy who's been, you know, making all those waves with his own political ambitions lately.
The one and only.
That's wild.
And here's the kicker. Even Trump himself seems to side with Musk on this one.
Seriously?
Which, given his usual stance on immigration, is,
Yeah.
well, it's a head-scratcher.
Totally. I mean, remember that quote he gave to the New York Post? Something about having many H-1B workers on his own property.
Yeah, like almost contradicting his own base on this.
It makes you wonder how Trump actually makes decisions, Is this pure pragmatism, like recognizing that H-1Bs have value in certain sectors?
Or is it a sign that, Musk's influence is growing? Maybe he's become the go-to guy for Trump on certain policy areas.
It could be both. Or something else entirely.
Right.
Okay, but before we go too deep into analyzing Trump's brain, there's another twist to this story that we absolutely have to talk about.
Oh no, what now?
You ready for this? Bannon, who is totally against Musk having any influence in U.S. politics.
Right.
He's totally fine with him meddling in European politics.
Wait, what? He's encouraging it?
It seems that way.
That's a pretty fascinating contradiction. It really speaks to how complex Bannon's strategy is.
Right. It's like, on one hand, he's trying to box Musk out of Trump's inner circle, maybe seeing him as a threat to his own position,
As like the thought leader of the MAGA movement?
Exactly. But then on the other hand, he sees the potential Musk has as this disruptor, especially in Europe where right-wing populism is gaining ground. And Bannon himself has been super involved in trying to build those movements in Europe.
Yeah.
Right?
Remember the movement, the one he was trying to launch?
It's like he's saying, go ahead, Elon, stir things up over there. Just stay out of our backyard. That's a great way to put it. And there's this one quote from Bannon in the article that I think perfectly sums up his thinking. He says, "Money and information are the twin tactical nukes of modern politics, and he can deploy both at unprecedented scale."
Whoa. Chilling.
Right. Like you can just feel the maybe a little fear there, maybe even some grudging admiration for Musk's power.
Totally. Like Bannon sees Musk as this weapon that can be aimed in different directions.
Depending on the strategic objective.
So keep Musk away from Trump, but hey, unleash him on European leaders. Why not?
Exactly. And this brings us to the most important question. If Musk is willing to be, deployed like this, what are his own goals?
What's driving him?
Is he just a pawn in this bigger game? Or does he have his own vision, his own agenda that he's trying to push forward?
And that's where I think we need to take a closer look at his relationship with Trump, his actual involvement in policy, how much influence he really has.
Right, because this isn't just about H-1B visas, is it? This is about something much bigger.
It could have major consequences for, everything. For politics, for the world.
Absolutely. I wonder what our listeners are making of all this. We've got these huge personalities, these ideological clashes, and these really big questions about power and influence.
Yeah, it's like we're watching some high-stakes chess match play out on a global scale, with Musk and Bannon making their moves, each trying to outmaneuver the other.
And Trump's right there in the middle of it all.
Always the wild card.
And it's not just, a game. This stuff has real-world consequences.
Oh, absolutely.
The decisions they're making, the alliances. It affects people's lives, industries, even the balance of power globally.
No doubt. So before we get too lost in the weeds here, let's zoom out for a second, recap.
Okay.
So we got Bannon, who's a key figure in the MAGA world, launching this very public attack on Musk, right? Framing him as an outsider, even using some pretty harsh language to make his point.
Right.
Then there's this whole thing with the H-1B visa program. And Musk and Trump are surprisingly on the same side.
Unexpected, for sure.
And then, just to make things even crazier, you have the European paradox, where Bannon seems totally okay with Musk meddling in European politics.
Even encouraging it, right.
While at the same time trying to keep him away from Trump. It's a lot to wrap our heads around.
It really does show how fluid political alliances can be,
For sure.
Something that looks like this clear ideological divide can shift depending on what they're trying to achieve. And Musk, well, he doesn't fit neatly into any box.
He's hard to pin down, that's for sure. And that brings us to, I think, the big question here. What is Musk's end game?
Yeah.
What's driving all this political involvement, both here and internationally?
Yeah, what is it? Pure altruism, a desire to, save the world? Or is it something more strategic?
Right. I mean, some people say he's truly driven by this, deep desire to solve problems, to make government work better, to push the boundaries of innovation.
And they point to, SpaceX, Tesla, even Neuralink as proof.
Yeah, look at all he's accomplished.
He's got that whole move fast and break things mentality,
Oh, classic Silicon Valley. But is that enough to explain his political ambitions?
I don't know. There are people who see things a bit more cynically, They say he's mainly motivated by self-interest. Well, they argue that he's using his wealth and influence to help his own businesses. Especially in areas where government contracts and regulations are a big factor.
So like space exploration, AI, infrastructure, things like that.
Exactly. Areas where Musk's companies could really benefit from, let's say, favorable policies.
So could it be both? Maybe a mix of idealism and, well, smart business.
It's possible, right?
Maybe he sees no conflict between improving the world and making a profit along the way.
Yeah, and let's not forget about, ego.
Oh, yeah.
Musk is not exactly known for being shy and retiring. He likes to challenge people, shake things up.
Get into Twitter spats with, like, everyone.
Pretty much. Remember the whole thing with the British cave diver? Calling him
yeah.
a pedo guy? Not exactly a smooth diplomatic move.
Yeah, not his finest moment.
It really showed, what can go wrong when someone has that much power.
Especially when they control a platform like X.
Exactly. People were worried about his judgment, his impulsiveness.
And the potential for that platform to be used for, spreading misinformation. Or even just attacking people personally.
And speaking of X, it's become a major tool for him, right?
Yeah.
Shaping public opinion, pushing his own agenda, and it's causing a lot of concern, especially in Europe.
Worried about elections, right?
Yeah, and then there was that whole thing about reinstating those banned accounts.
Far-right figures, conspiracy theorists.
People were accusing him of giving a platform to hate speech and propaganda.
Turning X into this echo chamber for extremism. And remember, he said he wanted to make X a digital town square. The space for open and free expression.
Right. But what happens when that town square becomes a breeding ground for misinformation and harassment, even violence?
Tough questions.
It makes you think about the responsibility these social media companies have and the need for more accountability. We're in uncharted waters here,
Sure.
with people like Musk having this incredible influence over information and public opinion. So we've got Musk, the tech titan who likes to play politics, Bannon, the far-right strategist who wants to stay in control, and Trump, unpredictable as always.
What does it all mean? What are the consequences of this power struggle?
Well, one possibility is that things get even more fragmented, politically speaking. Alliances keep shifting. Ideologies become less and less clear.
We could see more populism, more nationalism, a rejection of, the whole system.
It's definitely in the air, both here and globally.
It feels like we're right on the edge of something big.
Yeah.
This, fundamental shift in political power. And it's all happening at the same time as these massive technological advancements and this increasingly globalized world.
Yeah. It's exciting and a little terrifying.
Yeah, it's a strange time, isn't it? We're at this crossroads. This Musk-Bannon thing, the H-1B battle. It all feels like a tiny version of these huge changes that are happening everywhere, right?
Yeah, it's all connected, isn't it? Technology, globalization,
Yeah.
the whole rise of populism.
And it creates this feeling of, uncertainty, a bit of chaos even.
It's definitely a time of big change, yeah. A lot of upheaval. But, I think there's also a lot of opportunity in that chaos.
I mean,
Well, a chance for new ideas, real progress. We can rethink how we do things.
yeah, that's a good point. But it's hard to see that when everything feels so messy, right?
It is. The challenge is figuring out how to make sense of it all, to navigate these competing stories we're hearing and, try to use these powerful forces for good.
So how do we do that? Where do we even begin?
Well, that's where you come in, dear listener.
Our listeners are the best.
We've given you the facts, different points of view, all the possible outcomes of this Musk-Bannon showdown. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, what stands out to you? What questions are you wrestling with?
We need everyone to think critically. Question what you hear, what you see, and really think about what all this means. We can't just sit back and watch. It's up to all of us to be informed, to be part of the conversation, and to hold those in power accountable.
That's what the deep dive is all about, isn't it?
It is.
Taking these complicated topics, these threads that seem totally separate, and weaving them together so we can see the bigger picture. Because, knowledge is power. If we understand what's going on, we can make better choices in our own lives and as citizens.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And, before we finish up, I want to leave you with one last thought.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
If Musk really is as influential as people say, why is Bannon working so hard to push him away? What's that all about?
Yeah, what is that about? Purely a power struggle on the right, just clashing personalities. Or is there something, deeper going on?
Right. Could it be that Bannon sees Musk as a threat? To his vision for the future of the MAGA movement?
Maybe he's worried that Musk will water down the message. Or pull Trump in a different direction.
Maybe. Or maybe he just doesn't trust Musk, sees him as someone who's in it for himself. not for the movement.
That's a good point.
We might never know the whole story, but the fact that this tension exists, that these two powerful guys are fighting for influence with Trump, well, it says a lot.
About what?
About where we are politically, about how alliances are always shifting, how old ideologies aren't working anymore, and how technology is changing the very nature of power.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. And it reminds us that we're all part of this, whether we realize it or not. Our choices matter, what we read, what we watch, who we talk to. It all has an effect. So keep asking questions, stay engaged, use your voice to help create the world you want.
Couldn't agree more. The future is being written right now, and we all have a role to play.
That's the truth.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Hope you learned something. Hope it made you think.
Yeah.
And maybe even made you a little uncomfortable. Because, let's face it, reality can be pretty wild sometimes. And the best way to understand it is to really dig in and get your hands dirty.
Get deep.
Until next time.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I